Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Very stupid o'clock. Welcome to another episode of Smelling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible place known as the JRC. But before we get going this morning, some personal tidbits and, the usual disclaimers. Okay, can somebody tell me how the hell we go from a spring like December to January 2nd? Boom. Everything's freezing, everything's cold. Because Missouri weather is drunk and needs to go home now. That is some special level switch there. It's like somebody oh wait, it's actually winter. Flip. Thankfully, taking into account yesterday and the fact that I about freezed my ass off while exercising outside, I actually bundled up a lot better this morning, but still, my point remains. God. Okay, now for the usual disclaimers, now that I've got my list of complaints sent out to the manager. Okay, so we first have the link to the report we're going over from 1979 right there in the description box, alongside the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, where we get the bulk of the material on the JRC for this channel. You also have the templates. You know the drill. Sign your name, click on your senator. Let's make sure we end adversive punishments, improper restraints, and seclusion in public schools. In the ever-present, self-explanatory, change.org, shut the Judge Roberg Center down petition. Now, a couple of trigger warnings here for those who are more of my actually autistic hashtag folks. Please remember, this report is from 1979. Apparently, actually showing some human fucking dignity to people with disabilities was not on their priority list back in the day. So you're going to hear ableist language throughout the entirety of this report. I do not use that language myself, but it's going to be there because I am reading the report as is, okay? And also, folks, when we talk about the JRC, for those who are less familiar with the subject, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch surveillance footage of peoples with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please use your headphones, all right? And folks, it is 3:27 a.m. stupid o'clock in the morning. Okay? I'm still trying to get over the fact that I walked outside and immediately got brain freeze. So if I stumble over any of my words this morning, my apologies in advance, all right? All right, so we're going back to where we left off yesterday. But before we do, interesting point that Kim Lamb brought up. Somebody explain to me how the hell, and yes, I'm aware it was 1979, how the hell routine bruising did not send up red flag for these parents. I know corporal punishment was still a thing in 1979 in public schools, but for God's sake. Moving forward. Okay. So programmed opportunities. Behavioral Research Institute does not attempt to prevent a student from exhibiting a behavior. That is, no attempt is made to divert or redirect a student when he becomes upset or is about to engage in inappropriate or harmful behavior. They still don't. In fact, folks, they actually encourage it so that they can then punish it. It's the most insane shit I've ever heard. If a child is upset and is about to hit himself, Staff will not intervene by redirecting him to a task or holding his arm. Both accepted educational interventions. Rather, the staff prefers. Okay, the 1970s were stupid. The last thing you want to be doing to a neurodiverse child when they're getting ready to go into meltdown is hold their arm. You just asking for problems at that point. Just saying. Both accepted educational interventions. Rather, the staff prefers to have the child exhibit the behavior so that they might utilize the planned aversive, which is fucking psychotic. Can we take a moment to think about how psychotic that is? The fact that this school will actually induce this behavior. It's called behavioral lessons, folks. They will go out of their way to induce a behavior so that they can then punish it. It is insane. That's nuts. But we all understand that that's psychotic, right? We all understand that? Good. In order for the behavior modification to be effective, the behavior must be exhibited frequently enough so that the child learns the consequence of the behavior. This is my problem. This is psychotic. And this is ABA, by the way. They do this in ABA studies all the time. They induce the behavior so that they can then study it and then provide an aversive. It's psychotic. So what do I mean? So if you have a student who is not engaging in the behavior, just behaving themselves, doing what they are asked to do, and then you do something completely crazy that forces them into the behavior, wasn't the fact that they were not having the behavior in the first place indicate that they know that it is wrong and therefore wasn't doing it? Why do we feel the need to force them to have it and then teach them that it is wrong? If they're not doing it, they already know it's wrong. God. Now, I've had arguments online with some of these supporters of this place that be sitting there like, but it still comes out as stress reactions. It is always going to come out as a stress reaction. Okay? No amount of punishment is going to make that go away. I promise you that. That is how our neurology acts when we are under extreme stress or fucking scared. We can't do anything about it. It comes from our neurology. And no amount of behavioral psychology is going to change how we react to situations, okay? Because our brains are wired differently from yours. We react differently to similar situations. My God. Sorry. When the target behavior does not occur spontaneously, as often as is necessary in the program, the staff set up programmed opportunities for the behavior. Listen to this. This is insane. So, if you don't engage in the negative behavior, if you are working on it, and it is getting better, but the fact that they have in their fucking behavior program to force the behavior out, even while you're not doing them, so that they can punish you for it. For example, steals for drinks and beverages. Yeah, if I were starving to death because of you psychotic fucks, I would be stealing food and drink too. In order to eradicate that behavior, the staff prompts her to steal juice so that they might punish her for that behavior. In other words, they don't let her have any juice or water so that they feel the need to steal in order to survive, and then we're going to punish you for it. The instructions taped on her classroom table read as follows: stealing opportunities. Oh, for God's sake, kill me. Blank is to receive one stealing opportunity per hour. She should be prompted to steal a juice squirter, and a spank is to be administered. If this does actually steals the juice, she is to receive the helmet and white noise for 15 minutes. Please record pass-fail of opportunities and any appropriate comments. And now, folks, remember when they're doing these behavioral lessons that if they don't do what they are telling them to do, the behavior, they still get punished. In a similar opportunity, blank is being trained to accept disappointment. Oh, fuck you bastards. When he has performed a task which earns him a sip of juice or a bite of his meal, he is denied that reward. He is punished if he protests the fact that his reward was not given. The instructions taped to his table read as follows: accepting disappointment. Oh my God, the hell is wrong with you people? 3 times during the hour which blank earns juice or food for task completion or good working, do not give the reward, and no reward this time. Go back to work, please. So you starve him. You starve him. Wait a few minutes if blank accepts disappointment, does not display any appropriateness. Reward with sip of juice. If blank does not accept it, consequent that behavior is displayed. Such denials of earned rewards cannot be construed as fading the need for primary reinforcers. The intent and application of this procedure is very different. Further, this observation team concludes that such practices constitute entrapment of students. Thank you, God. Even in the 70s, they got that. Health services. The site visitation team was not permitted to accompany the part-time registered nurse on her daily rounds. During this time, she regularly inspects each child to observe any markings or bruisings which have occurred as a result of the aversive techniques employed in the treatment program. At the same time, she expects for any other injuries which may have occurred. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close out here because this was rather loaded this morning. So they have gone over in detail behavioral lessons. And these particular behavioral lessons were a little bit on the lighter side. Probably because somebody was watching them. This bizarre concept, and it does come from, as I like to call it, old school ABA, although the principle of it is still applied in ABA today. This concept of if someone is not engaging in the behavior that they've maybe had before, then they are going to induce that behavior so that then it can be punished, so that the student can know that it's wrong. It's batshit insane. Batshit insane. See, in my mind, if they are not having the inappropriate behavior and haven't had it in some time, wouldn't anyone with a logical, coherent thinking brain then think, well, then that student obviously knows that it is wrong, and move on? Right? Even in the 70s. even in the 70s, that would be logical, coherent sense, right? And I mean, remember, I've worked in the field, folks, and I've also been to conferences in other states like Indianapolis, so I have a pretty good idea about the procedures in other states. Nobody does the same shit that the JRC does. That being said, though, ABA does use a similar concept these days, although they have taken back the more harsh methods of the past. They still induce a behavior and use adversive consequences such as ignoring the kid, or keeping them from a favorite toy. Like, for example, I know of one study where they removed a favorite toy from one of my nonverbal brethren. And it was a sensory toy. It helped keep them calm and help them self-regulate. And they removed it in order to produce a reaction. And then once the kid had that reaction, they would keep that sensory toy away from the child. And while the child would scream due to obvious sensory issues that the toy was helping with, they would then tell the parent to ignore the child. So this is still very prevalent in ABA, folks. It's the stick and carrot. The only difference with the JRC is JRC uses the stick and carrot to its extreme. To its extreme. Now, we're going to go into probably some really triggering things tomorrow, first day of my weekend. So for now, until I go on live later today, we're going to go ahead and close out for this morning. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.